Mine is. I'm always reminded by my PIO. So you let me know when you're ready to go. Everybody good? All right. Yesterday at approximately 4 p.m., the York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office responded to Mary Immaculate Hospital in the city of Newport News based on a walk-in male in his 80s that had gone into the emergency room and announced to the emergency room staff that he had a deceased child in the back of his vehicle, and that vehicle was parked right at the entrance to the emergency room doors. The emergency room personnel from Mary Immaculate then went out to the car, and in the rear hatch of the vehicle they observed a black plastic trash bag, and inside that black plastic trash bag they discovered a deceased 11-month-old child. That child has been identified as Miracle Wicker, date of birth October the 19th, 2022. So clearly at that point, the Investigations Division of the York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office got involved, and during the course of the next several hours, we conducted an investigation that led later last night to the arrest of the caretaker of that child, and I'll provide that information in just a moment. What we've been able to determine so far in the course of our investigation is that the caretaker had the child, had been in possession of the child and taken care of it for approximately 2 days. The mother is a 17-year-old who lives here in York County as well, and this woman periodically would take care of the child, sometimes for weeks at a time, is what our investigation has determined. At approximately 1 a.m. night before last, the morning of September the 12th, the caretaker received a phone call from a friend who was in the city of Newport News who was taking care of an elderly person there. The caretaker and the friend both take turns taking care of this individual, and this person that called was asking for the caretaker to bring cigarettes to her because she couldn't leave the elderly gentleman at 1 o'clock in the morning. So the 11-month-old child was put in the back of the vehicle along with a small dog and transported to Newport News, where they went to a 7-Eleven, purchased cigarettes and a bottle of apple juice, and all of that is on video. We've gotten the video from that 7-Eleven. She then took the child and the small dog and drove to the home, gave their friend the cigarettes, and stayed there for some period of time. Our evidence and our investigation determined that she returned back to the 3600 block of Seaford Road in York County, where she resides, and was keeping the child somewhere around 8 o'clock in the morning yesterday morning. Once she got home, she rolled the windows up on the car, turned the car off, left the dog and the child in the vehicle. Around 2 to 2:30 p.m. yesterday afternoon, she was awakened by a phone call, went outside to then check on the child, who was at that point deceased. The child was brought into the house. The individual that later took the child to Mary Immaculate Hospital placed the child in a black plastic bag and transported the child to Mary Immaculate, where the doctors there, when they came out, also agreed that the child was deceased, and that's what started our investigation. So based on the circumstances that I've provided to you just now, last night Sheriff's Office investigators arrested Kristen Danielle Graham of the 3600 block of Seaford Road in Yorktown. She's a white female, 40 years of age. She's been charged with felony child neglect, which is a class 4 felony, and she was also charged with animal cruelty based on the death of the dog as well that was in the vehicle, which is a class 1 misdemeanor. And she was taken to the Virginia Peninsula Regional Jail, where she is still incarcerated at this time. Now, today, we are awaiting results of the autopsy of the child, because if we received information from the medical examiner today or sometime in the future, there's a very good possibility that these charges could be upgraded to homicide charges. So that's the facts of the case as we know them right now, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Hopefully you'll understand that there may be some things that I can't discuss.
From what you've been able to ascertain, exactly when she got home, has she explained why she left the child and the dog in the car, why she did not bring both inside?
There isn't any really good explanation for it, and to be honest with you, there is some conflicting information in her statements. She initially would have us believe that she was in the vehicle along with the child and the dog for that duration of time. Our evidence that we have collected doesn't support that information. We believe that she left them, went in the house, went to sleep, and came back out 6 hours later.
And there's been no explanation on why she did that?
Other than when the child, when she first got there, she made a statement to the investigators the child was asleep, and I'm thinking at that point in time that she made a decision just to leave the child in the vehicle.
And isn't that contradictory that she told your investigator that she thought the child was asleep, but she was also saying that she was in the car for the duration
Correct.
of the time
That was
as
her
well?
initial statement, yes, that she was in the car as well. But our investigation doesn't support that statement.
And you identified the child as Miracle with her.
Mhm.
Are you able to say boy or girl? I assume female or
It's a female.
female. Just want to make sure.
Has there been any other communication with her or with anyone with the family of Miracle about any of this?
We have been in touch with Miracle's mother. They're aware, and the family members are all aware as well.
Has there an explanation been given why the child was not with the 17-year-old mother and was in the care of this woman who would eventually have all of this happen?
This has been fairly commonplace, is what we've understood from our investigation, that she stays fairly regularly with this woman. So it was not unusual for her to be with her for 2 days. Sometimes our investigations determined that she was with this woman for up to a week at a time.
The 17-year-old mother would also stay with her, is that correct?
No.
Okay.
She was staying with the 40-year-old Kristen Graham by herself. The mother lived not far away, but she did not reside in that home.
Was there a reason why the child was not living with her mother?
I'm not aware of what the circumstances are about that relationship right now as to why the child spent so much time away from the home.
And forgive me if I'm trying to keep up with the details here. The relationship between the caretaker and the mother, what is that relationship?
The mother lives with a very good friend of the caretaker, Kristen Graham. So that's how they came to know each other, through that relationship.
And just so I'm understanding, how long was the child actually left in the vehicle? Was it 1 a.m. the night before to 2:30 p.m. the following day? Or I guess the same day?
No, 1 a.m. is when Miss Graham left with the baby and the dog to go to Newport News, buy cigarettes for her friend who had requested she do that, then took them to the house. Our evidence, we seem to believe that we found the car on the flock camera system, which is a license plate reader system we have here in York County, coming back towards the house around 8 a.m. So we believe that Miss Graham arrived back at her residence on Seaford Road somewhere around 8:30 a.m. and the child would have been in the vehicle between 8:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. yesterday afternoon, along with the dog.
On a very hot day.
Yes, the heat index was at least 100 degrees or more yesterday.
And you said she received a call approximately around 2 p.m. in the afternoon. Who was that call from, if you are able to release that information?
We received a call about 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon from the hospital. The elderly male that drove the baby to Mary Immaculate, when hospital personnel came out and discovered the baby in the back of the car, they first contacted the Newport News Police Department. The Newport News Police Department responded. Once they learned some of the circumstances, they reached out to the York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office, and that's when we arrived on scene.
Do we know who made the call to the caregiver at 2:30 that awakened her, that she would then go out to the
Yes.
car and find the child and the dog?
Oh, no, the 2 to 2:30? No, I'm not familiar with who made that phone call or what that call was about. She just gave a statement to us that she was awakened between 2 and 2:30 by a phone call, and that's when she went outside to check on the child.
Is there any reason to believe she was intoxicated, or that there was some type of a mind thing going on that would allow her to forget that she had a dog and a child in that car?
We have collected evidence that's going to be analyzed. It may give us the answer to that question, that she either could have had alcohol or some other type of drug in her system, but we're not sure of that right now, but that is part of our investigation.
And just to follow, I apologize, this one's a little complicated. The 80-year-old man, what's his relation to the 40-year-old caretaker?
The 80-year-old man lives in the same house as the caretaker. The caretaker had a garage apartment there, and the 80-year-old male lived in the actual physical residence itself.
Can you say something, just a case like this has to be a tough one on your people?
Oh, anytime that you investigate the death of a child, it's devastating to the investigators and the law enforcement people that have to be involved with that. I mean, we have kids ourselves, so that really hits home when it's a small child like this, and it's so senseless that something like this happens.
Have you, in your long and distinguished career, ever heard of something like this before?
Well, we've had some fairly bad cases, but nothing like this where a child has been left in a vehicle for that extended amount of time that appears to have resulted in the death. No, this is the first time in my career.
Especially with an incriminating statement that she said, "I thought that the child was asleep."
Well, she knew the child was asleep when she left the child in the car. The circumstances as to why she did that we're still looking into.
And two quick questions. Are you able to spell the defendant's name in this situation, just for our accuracy?
Her first name is Kristen, Kristen, middle name Danielle, Danielle, Graham, Graham.
And does she have any previous offenses?
I don't think she has much of a prior criminal history, not that I'm aware of.
And 40-year-old Kristen Danielle Graham,
Correct.
Kristen, and the child's name again is Miracle.
Yes. Spelled Myrical.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Myrical.
Last name Wicker, W-I-C-K-E-R.
Yes,
Myrical,
correct,
in common spelling of Wicker.
correct.
Wow.
And what block of Seaford?
3600 block.
And that's Seaford Road.
Mm-hmm.
And Sheriff, we know that, in the last couple of years, this isn't the first child death you've experienced in your area, with a previous case regarding a couple in a home near Kiln Creek.
Mhm.
Are you able to kind of express and kind of reiterate what you said earlier about, seeing these investigations, in your own area, in your own region that you've served for so many years?
Well, like I said, these are not typical situations that we deal with in York County. And when you do come across the death of a child, it affects everyone. The investigators, the law enforcement people there, the EMS people that have to respond to these types of things. And I can tell you that the mood of the agency today, when we had a briefing on it this morning, is somewhat shock and disbelief, even though, you know, we're professionals and we have to do everything that we possibly can do to do a thorough professional investigation. It affects the people. Like I said, we have children ourselves, and I can tell you that we all go home and hug our kids and our grandkids a little tighter after something like this happens.
What conversations have you had with the family? What have they said to you?
Well, we're still doing interviews with them right now, so that's still ongoing right now.
Now, she left to go see a friend at 1 a.m. She leaves the friend around, did you say 2:20-ish?
No, she was we have her on video at the 7-Eleven in Denby area buying the cigarettes and apple juice around 2 a.m. She leaves there and goes to her friend's house and stays some amount of time.
And then she comes back at 8:30, right?
We have her coming back into the county around 8 a.m., so we believe that she arrived back at her residence somewhere around 8:20 to 8:30 a.m.
Right, and do we know, has she explained what she was doing at that other place between that 2 and 8 a.m.?
Basically just talking with her friend, spending some time with her.
And the Seaford Road, that is Graham's residence, correct?
Correct.
I guess there's no way for us to tell if the child was, whether the child was alive when she left the friend's house. I mean, I guess the child was alive at that time?
Our investigation would say yes, based on what we were able to observe about the child when we began our investigation. It's fairly certain to us that this child passed away during the time it was in the back of the car.
Yeah. Beginning at 8:30 a.m.
Yes. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Sheriff.
Mhm.
A little bit of clarification.
Mhm.
Where was the 7-Eleven? Do you have the address for that?
It's at the intersection of Denby and Old Courthouse.
Denby and Old Courthouse, goes to the 7-Eleven, then goes to the friend's house. Do you
Mhm.
know the address of that?
I do not.